What should Arizona fans expect from year two in Brent Brennan? Why is he back? We're going to break all of that down and more coming up right here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. This show is brought to you today by Gametime. Check it out at Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Check it out. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about Brent Brennan. He is back at the University of Arizona, and the question I think a lot of people asking is, why is he back? So for Desiree Reed-Francois, the athletic director, spent a lot of time fundraising money to basically to be able to move on from him. And I feel very comfortable in saying that she got it. But for whatever reason, couldn't get a big enough coach. Whatever the case may be, Brent Brennan is back. And where it gets it's going to be a little bit interesting is that I think Brent Brennan pretty much has jurisdiction on who he's going to have at his disposal. Now, as we talked about yesterday, going into this, I think a lot of people thought that Brent Brennan would, be forced to get rid of some people. I don't know that that's the case anymore. Honestly, I think after his meeting with DRF, I don't think that is the case anymore. I think this is going to be up to Brent Brennan to decide what he wants to do with his staff with the idea that you've got to win. You've got to be able to figure it out what exactly you are going to do this season, what you need to do to be able to win football games. And if that means that you're going to have if that means you're going to have Matt Adkins as your head coach or as your OC, that's so be it. If that means that you're going to have somebody else, if that means you're going to have the same position coaches, this is basically going to be on him to decide what he wants to do, how he feels comfortable going forward with this. And I think the players are also going to be having to figure this one out as well. But that's why Brent Brennan is back. And I think with DRF, this is kind of, this is going to be an interesting one because it's difficult to go and try to get money from people and then also say at the same time that, well, guess what? We're bringing him back, but he is back. And what does that mean then? The first thing I think a lot of people have to ask is, what is the deal with the transfer portal? That's going to be fascinating. Where does all of this reside with Arizona and the transfer portal? Noah Fifita, I feel very comfortable in saying that Noah Fifita and his camp are going to give Arizona every chance to be able to sell them on who that OC should be. And who is that going to be? Is it going to be somebody that they can trust, that they can rely on? Is it somebody with a track record? Because keep in mind, they kind of blindly went into this last year and, well, it kind of bit him in the butt because, Dino Babers clearly didn't know what he was doing. The game had clearly passed him by. And I think that's the thing that you're looking at if you're Noah Fifita and this coaching staff. I think the other thing too that you need to talk about too with all of this is, what should expectations for this offense be? And I think that's the question. Listen, if you're this past year, this was about as underperforming an offense as I think you will ever see, and it's pretty much across the board. We're going to talk about that here. You go from the quarterback, Noah took a major step back. Now, again, I blame this coaching staff for what happened with Noah. Noah, by the end, wasn't even completing simple passes that he's made in his sleep. And again, I put that pretty much on this coaching staff. Let's talk about it. Lyle Malvo and Lyle Malvo / Dino Babers, Matt Atkins, just not good enough. You never had any idea what exactly they were going to do on the offensive side of the football. You didn't know what their identity was. Not only did you not know what their identity was, you didn't know exactly what they were trying to do from game to game, and there was no tempo, there was nothing. It was just kind of, well, whatever. It just kind of felt like you were throwing it out there. That has to change. And if they are somehow back, you've got to be able to figure out where exactly you can make this that it's easier for the Arizona offense to be able to succeed. Because again, that was an absolute joke. Now, Josh Oglesby, I think that is the real problem when it comes to Arizona was the offensive line. I don't care what anybody says. I know that there were some injuries, this and that, but Jonas Avenea played pretty much the whole season. Wendell Moy played pretty much the entire season. On top of that, you also had a guy in Josh Baker. Again, you just couldn't find anybody in the portal that was good enough to be able to play. Basically, what happened with Brent Brennan is he inherited Jed Fish's players, enough of Jed Fish's players, and what happened from there was that he didn't add anybody. And that to me is still the problem, and why I am so concerned about next season is that you have a coach that really didn't add anybody. And that to me is still going to be the biggest concern, is that, yes, I get that you're late in the portal. I get all of that, and I appreciate that point. But still, you've got to be able to add somebody that can make a difference, and there was really none of that. And on the offensive line, you saw that. Michael Wooten, not good enough to play football at this level. I mean, maybe he will be. I don't know. Jonah Rodriguez, also the same way. Just not good enough. These weren't even roster filler guys. These were guys that you should have been able to, weren't even really practice squad. So again, that to me is a big, big concern. As far as why is Brent Brennan back, I don't know. And that to me is the you're bringing him back, but people say, what is fair? A fair chance. What does that mean? That is what Desiree Reed-Francois said, and I got to keep coming back to that. What does a fair chance mean? I don't know what that means, because this was, I think, more than a fair chance. And not only was it more than a fair chance, you had to have gotten something, and you didn't get really anything out of this. And that to me is the concern, is that you're going to probably come back with a roster that isn't as good as really isn't as good as where you were for where we're at this point. And I think that's kind of where I'm a little bit concerned, because honestly, this was embarrassing this past year, and I don't know really any other way to put it. I do think that we're kind of at the stage though now where you're going to win. You got to win. That's the only way you bring the fans in. We're going to talk about that more. But the times of promising, saying we're going to do this, we are going to do that. That's just not good enough. And not only is it not good enough, it's also not. We're also kind of at the point too where you don't really understand at this stage in the game that you really kind of squandered a really, really good year for Arizona. You had the possibility. This team should have been better. How in the world this team wasn't better, I don't know. And I don't know exactly how that was the case. This wasn't good. Now, the other thing too that I think you need to factor in here as well is that Arizona is in a difficult spot when it comes to this coaching staff, because I think it's very difficult to say that it's dynamic, and that's also I think what kind of I think leads to a little bit of the reason that there's probably not a ton of hope for optimism. We are going to talk about that in just a second and what this coaching staff means going forward. But first, Game time, game time, game time. Check it out. Download the Gametime app. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. All right, here's the great stuff about Gametime. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime. What time is it? Gametime. Ooh. And again, here's the cool thing that you can do. You can get all-in pricing, seat views, the lowest price guaranteed. This is all stuff at Gametime, and again, that is where it is at. And I think on top of that, you're also kind of at the stage too, where Gametime will be able to get me into a lot of different events. So again, check it out, Gametime. Another one of these ones. You're going to thank me later. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit about where the next aspect is with Arizona. So I think Alonzo Carter. Alonzo Carter is. I'm fine with Alonzo Carter. He is a. He's a good coach, and I have no qualms with him whatsoever. I'm fine with him. Not only am I fine with him, I think that he is the guy that you can get a good running back with. And so there is that. So I'm fine with him. Josh Oglesby, I think you got to move on from Josh Oglesby. And not only do you have to move on from him, I get that that's your guy and this and that, but you changed pretty much the entire blocking scheme. You didn't try to you wanted to get downhill as opposed to holding up. And that's kind of where I think that's kind of where we're at this point. Now, where is where is this going to be? Where exactly are you going to be then with the wide receivers? Bobby Wade. It's hard for me to say that. It's hard for me to say that this is going to be a. It's hard to for me to say that this is the right guy. T-Mac obviously is fantastic. But you look at the other ones, though, you got a Jeremiah Patterson. Nobody really developed. Chris Hunter developed. I'll give you that. Chris Hunter did develop. Wade, I'm kind of in a wait and see approach on that. But at the end of the day, though, I also think that you also have to understand that this is also a squad that you have to get. You just got to get better wide receivers. Generally, you don't get better by losing your best players. And I think that's kind of where I'm at with that. T-Mac, Big Jonah, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I think we're also then you look at, so Bobby Wade, I mean, kind of whatever. Matt Adkins, I'm fine. If he's the tight ends coach, I'm totally cool with that, whatever. But then you move over to the other side. Again, I'm trying to find hope and optimism, but again, a lot of coaches, I don't think just did a very good job. The other one that you got to also look at is Joe Sumalo. He was not good. He was not good at the. He was not good at the. At the defensive line position. He just wasn't. I mean, he ran off Big Bill Norton, and not only that. He thought that Chuba was going to be. He thought that Chuba was going to be the guy. Chuba ain't that dude. And they also thought that Deuce Davis was too good or was too small to really be a contributor at the next level. Well, he went off and he was the Big Ten Player of the Week 2 weeks ago at Washington. So again, there's that. And the line was small, and it just, quite frankly, it just wasn't very good. I don't know what else to say about that. It was small, it wasn't very good. Those are generally not the recipes for putting together a winning product on the football field. Now, looking at the secondary, you like I said, you just really weren't able to get anybody in there that was dynamic, that was good, and I think that's a problem. But we are also kind of at the point now too where you also know that, you didn't bring up anybody. And that's the reason why I don't have a ton of optimism on what's going forward. Now, as far as who's going to be returning, it's going to be fascinating because you are going to have some players that I would think you're going to have some players that are going to be good. But at the same time, I think we're also kind of at the point now too where I think it's fairly safe to say that I think it's kind of fair to say that we're also kind of put at the stage where you also do know for a fact that you got to add a lot of players, and I think the roster is just it's not good enough, and you've got to be able to get bigger on both sides of the ball. It's just not good enough, and I think that's the other thing too with all of this is that you got to find some people in the portal that are going to be able to bring in, and you're going to be able to bring in immediately. I think if you get a better offensive line, which I'm very skeptical of, by the way. I'm very skeptical about the O line because again, you're losing a lot of different dudes. You're losing a Jonas Sabanea. You're losing a Baker. I don't know that you just replace those guys. As a matter of fact, I think that you. I don't know that you do. I don't know that you do replace those players, but you got to get better. You got to get bigger there. You got to get better. That's just the way it is. Not only that, I think that I think we're kind of at the stage too where you also know too with this roster that you've got to be you got to be able to bring in players at that wide receiver position. Now, again, you already lost Terry Shelton, and not only do you lost Terry Shelton, you lost already a Toncora, Muiz Toncora. That's not good enough as well. You've got Gio Richardson most likely coming back, but you also know at the same stage though that you also know at the same stage too that we're kind of at the point too where it just like you said it just wasn't really good. It wasn't really good enough, and I think at the wide receiver spot you got to get some dudes in there that can help out Noah. I think that you've got some guys. Chris Hunter, if you can retain Chris Hunter, that would be a really nice thing. That tight end position, I think you bring in Kean Burnett, you bring back Kean Burnett. I think that you could do some things there, but you have got to get better on the offensive line. You have got to get better at that receiver position. And not only do you have to get better at both of those spots, you also have to be better. And you got to be able to get guys out of there for you got to be able to get guys out there that can make some real plays. I'm kind of nervous about all of that, to be honest with you, because I don't know that I have a lot of I don't know that, like I said, I don't know that I have a lot of confidence that that's going to be that's going to be the case. Okay, now let's talk a little bit then about what you need to do as far as getting Noah right. You need to get a real QB coach in there. Not only do you need to get a real QB coach in there, a real somebody that can help Noah out, because it felt all too often that Noah was basically coaching himself on the football field. And that, as cerebral as the kid is, he can't be that dude. He's not that good. He's not Peyton Manning, where he's essentially just running everything. That's just not going to be good enough for Arizona. You've got to get somebody in there that is a professional, that knows what they're doing, that has been around. I'm sure Lyle Malvo is a great guy. That doesn't mean that he should be the quarterback's coach. This dude's been an analyst before. You've got to get a real OC in there. If you bring back a Matt Adkins, and this is with all due respect, as your OC, then you are asking for people to boycott your games. Because again, the offense last year was an absolute atrocity. You can't bring back the same people. You bring back the same people. At some point, it's also just not. At some point, it's also just it's an issue, and I think that that's going to be that's going to be it. We're going to find out what Brent Brennan wants to do, because with all of this, you also know as well that this is a coaching staff that was just in over its head this past year. Not only was it in over its head, I don't think you got the sense that they really knew what they were doing, and there was never any adjustments from week in to week out. And week in to week out, there was no, and that to me is still the issue. Is that if you don't have any adjustments, if you don't have anything, and it's just week in and week out, just saying, well, I know we got a good coaching staff, we got to play better. That's just not good enough. And not only is that not good enough, that's just a problem. And I think we're going to find out exactly how this does all play out. But there's not a lot that leads you to believe. Now, from a fan perspective, from a fan support perspective, we're going to talk about that. What does Brent Brennan need to do to be able to get this fan base back in? First, FanDuel, check it out, FanDuel. All right, here's the deal with FanDuel. You can put down $5, 5 easy dollars, and you can get $150 in free plays. That simple, that easy. You've just got to be a new customer, and you've just got to be able to hit. And if that happens, then you're good to go. And why not do that, my friends? Why not do that? Check it out at FanDuel. The great thing about it, too, you got college football here, you got the NFL, you got the NBA, you got college basketball, you got a lot of different things. Check it out. Again, one of these ones, you're going to thank me later on, but watch this, and if you got a little bit of a hint on what's going on, if you got a little bit of an idea that say, oh, well, by the way, I think I know what's going on here. I want to get in on this live. check it out. Again, check it out at FanDuel. Put down $5. You can get $150 in free plays if your bet hits. Check it out at FanDuel.com. This is the time to get in there. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now let's talk about the fan support. Brent Brennan, I said from day one, Brent Brennan aired tremendously with when it came to fan support. He did nothing. He did next to nothing to engage this fan base, and that is a problem. Is when you come into a college town and you don't engage, you are asking for people to not support you. That made no sense. And basically he said, and he did say this, my job is not that. I'm going to leave that to other people. That's just not good enough. That's not a good enough answer. You said that this was your dream job. You got to act like it. And he didn't act like it. He never acted like it. And I think that's where I think so many people were frustrated, including me, that, man, you said how much this job means to you and everything, and you're certainly not acting like it. And that, I think, is I think that is I think that to me just is the problem. That just kind of encapsulates everything, that you weren't acting like this. If this was your dream job, then act like it. But you never really saw any of that here. Also, get out in the community. Now, at this stage in the game, it's probably a little bit too late because people have already turned on you. But he just appeared in over his head. And I think that is the problem that I think so many people have, including myself, is that everything just appeared kind of like, oh, you think I should do that? What do you mean fan engagement? Things like that. I just don't know how all of this took him for a loop, because quite frankly, it shouldn't have. And that's where I think so many people, including myself, are frustrated by that. It should not have taken him this long to be able to figure out what exactly he thought he needed to do to get out in the community. But he's got to do it. Whether he wants to or not, he's got to do it at this point. And I don't know that there's any other choice, because quite frankly, I think the community is kind of out on him. And the only way that he is going to get people back in here is by winning. That's it. He's not getting the people back in here by any other way except winning football games at this stage. Now, had he had a little bit of goodwill lined up, then maybe that wouldn't have been the case. But again, he didn't. He didn't. And that's just kind of the way it is. So I don't know exactly what else to say, but he's got to win. And he's got his margin for error is essentially 0. And that is the way that it should be. But he's going to have to just win football games. And he's going to have to hit a tremendous amount of players on the portal. And that is going to be the situation where you're, like I said, you got to hit. If you don't hit, then you should be out of here. Now, again, I think you could make the case that he should have been out of here before, but be that as it may, that's not necessarily what we're talking about here. And you got to get a good QB in here. You got to get Noah right, because again, with Noah, that was not the Noah that we have become accustomed to and have seen around here over the years. That's just not the guy that we have seen before. We need to be able to get a better version of that, and a coach that has an identity. I think the identity was like I said, you got to be able to hit on basically everything. And when people ask me what success is, to me, it at least starts with having an identity and being a little bit more interesting. That to me is a huge part of this, is that you got to be more interesting, man. You've got to be more interesting. And not only do you have to be more interesting, you got to at least show something where I know where you're going with that. Because again, we haven't really seen that. So there's not a ton of reasons for optimism, but Brent Brennan is back. I do think that I think you're going to see much of the same staff. I really do. And I think he's going to sink or swim with that one. Now, tomorrow, we're going to talk about some Arizona basketball. We are going to talk recruiting. You've got a lot of different things that are going to be interesting. Elijah Arenas is reclassifying. So now you got Elijah Arenas, Koa Pete, and not only do you have those guys, but you also have a situation with Braden Burries, you got to get two of those three. Not only do you got to get two of those three, you've got to be able to do that, and you got to be able to do that. Tommy Lloyd hasn't recruited great, so you got to. That's kind of where we're at with all this. We will find that one out. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A. We will be back with you tomorrow, and thanks again, as always, for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day.